Happy Saturday evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of Backmarker Battles. I'm your host of the ARC Racing Podcast, Stefan Parsons, Colby Evans. Good to be here with you guys on a random Saturday night. I know I don't normally do this, but I figured after the wild Watkins Glen race we had today, I figured why not come on here real quick just before the ARC race starts in about 90 minutes and talk some Xfinity racing. And a lot of backmarkers today had a great run, and that's kind of the reason why I'm here. It's always fun to come on here and talk about the backmarkers, especially when they can go out there and get these just great runs that when you watch the end of the race just make you feel really good inside. And we had a lot of those today. A lot of backmarkers struggled, though, and we're here to go over that as well. And that's the point of the show, guys. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the backmarkers and for all these races, and we literally had that. We had the good, the bad, and the ugly of backmarkers today. So, again, I'm happy you all here to join me. Quick little intro. You guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, at Stefan Parsons on Twitter. Like and subscribe here. We just hit 413. We're only 87 away from our 500 subscriber giveaway, so I want to get that shout out there quick. Follow NASCAR Man. Follow Brockbeard. Follow ArcaRacing.com. Those guys are all my best friends, and they help make this possible. So, yeah, give them a follow. Show them support as well. So, yeah, let's get into the Xfinity race today. We had a pretty decent-sized entry list. It was announced before the race. I did post it on social media. The number 13 of JJ Yaley, unfortunately, withdrew. Sponsor pulled out. I believe they said either Monday or Tuesday earlier this week. That would explain, number one, why they switched numbers. And then eventually the 13 was withdrawn. Likely the 13 would have entered anyway had there only been 38 cars. But with no real sponsorship on the car and the possibility of JJ missing the race, I'm sure you guys can understand it from a financial perspective why MBM decided to withdraw the 13 car. It just wasn't worth it, especially when you have a lot of money going into the 66 car, which, again, I don't believe that was the actual car was owned by Carl Long. I believe that is Craig Party's car, for people who don't know. And for a lot of the younger fans who might not know, in the late 2000s, 2010s, there was a team called Fleur-de-Lis Motorsports. They ran the number 68 in 2010 and 11, occasionally starting parking with the full race then and there with driver Carl Long. The team owner was Craig Party. Well, several years later in 2021 and this year, they teamed up once again to field a car for Timmy Hill at Watkins Glen. Timmy was scheduled to run the 13, but as I previously mentioned, due to the sponsor pulling out on the 13, they switched car numbers, and Timmy would run the 66. So that left us down with 41 cars, a big entry list, about what we've averaged, also what we've seen this season. A lot of teams put road ringers in. We had Scott Heckert in the 78. No Matt Mills this week. Spencer Pumpelly was put in the 6 over Ryan Vargas. Patrick Gallagher was back in the 38. Chris Wright was in the 68 now. We had Brad Perez, the Perez man himself, in the 35. Preston Pardis was in the 91. Josh Bilicki was in the 45. Connor Mosack was in the 26. Kaz Gralla was in the 48. A lot of road ringers, a lot of road racing presence in this race, which is something that I still enjoy about the road courses. I'm not overly high on the road courses. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen my tweets before. I'm not overly high on COTA. I can definitely honestly say COTA is not one of my favorite tracks. But as for the Glen, it always has been and always will be my favorite course to watch and to play racing games on. Watkins Glen is a very fun road course, and it never produces a bad race. I cannot remember the last time I watched Watkins Glen coming away from it and just thinking, why did I waste my time watching that? It's a very, very fun race to watch. So, yeah, we had 41 cars set for the race. We had practice, of course, the Group A and Group B stuff. I think that was the Cup Series. The Xfinity Series just did it all at once. I didn't have the NBC app, unfortunately, so I just had to follow along on the live leaderboard. But yeah, they practiced everyone. For some reason, I really wish they would have reported it, but I was hearing, did nobody report what happened to the 39 of Ryan Sieg? Fortunately, the 39 did not make a practice run, but I wasn't seeing any updates on social media of what would have happened to him. Maybe it was a transmission issue, or they couldn't get through tech. We don't know for sure, and I don't think at this point we'll never know. But either way, the 39 did not make a practice attempt, and only 40 of our 38 starters took a practice lap. Of notables of the backmarkers, The highest backmarker, I guess you could say backmarker team because they don't usually run back, but they run mid pack. DGM Racing, obviously usually the fastest ones here. Alex LeBay 9th, Ross Chastain 13th. That was a full DGM car. Ross Chastain, when he drives for Mario Gazon, that is a full DGM setup. That is no affiliation. Connor Mosack was in 20th. Pretty good run out of him. Stefan Parsons was 22nd. The Alpha Prime cars are usually the highest runners. Timmy Hill was down in 29th. The BJ McLeod cars, they were struggling, 32nd and 33rd. Most notably, Brad Perez was in 34th. But again, for his first laps, pretty impressive. Austin Wayne Self in the second Jordan Anderson racing car. He had to make the show on time. The car had no owner points. He was only 35th. Spencer Pumpelly was surprisingly only 36th. Bailey Curry was 37th. Bailey, he's really good on the intermediates and really good plate racer. But if you look through Bailey's career, he hasn't been very stellar on the road courses. And that's just some people. I'm not taking anything away from Bailey's talent, but some people are just good on ovals. Some people aren't just very good on road courses. And based off of Bailey results and the way he kind of ran his race today, Bailey was just kind of wanting to get through this race with the best finish possible and don't take any chances because obviously they will probably need this car at another date. Chris Wright down in 38th, which is actually pretty disappointment considering he's going to be running most of the rest of the season in the 68, and Blaine Perkins in the 02. And, like I said, being a family friend of Moffat's, it hurts to see that car running as poorly as it did, knowing what Moffat could do with it. And then Stanton Barrett down in 40th for Mike Harmon. And pretty much when I saw that, I figured, man, Stanton's a good road racer, but there's no way Stanton's going to pick up that much time to get the 47 in the show. So it was pretty already looked out of who was going to probably miss this race. The 47 for sure. I didn't see him picking up that much. And it looked like he was either going to be the 6, 32, or the 78. It was going to be between those 4 cars were going to be the likely people to go home. Now, the qualifying sessions were quite eventful. During that session, Timmy Hill, who was in the first group, only got 1 lap in. As the car was stuck in gear, listening to his radio, it appeared that his car was either stuck in either second or third gear, and he was stuck on track. They literally, I think, had to, I don't know if they pushed him in or pulled him in, but either way, the 66 only got 1 lap. But luckily did manage to get that lap because had Timmy Hill had he made his qualifying lap, I still think he would have made the race, probably would have gotten the last provisional position. But it was good to know that they were able to get themselves in the show anyway. Brad Perez, in my opinion, was the standout of qualifying. The Emerling Gase car was locked into the show anyway, even though it was 30th on the provisional grid. It was safe. I was going to say so. But to see Brad actually qualify the 35 into the race, on time, he was going to guarantee himself in the show. That, my friend, is impressive. And you always got to wonder this, and it's one thing that I was telling, my father when we were watching the race. How many natural talented drivers are out there that are just not discovered? I mean, Brad Perez was just racing his Miata. Mazda Miatas. I don't really know the series he was in. I think it was a Mazda. But and we never really knew his talent. He got that start with the Josh Williams ARCA team, and it went okay, didn't go perfect. And then we saw him in the truck series. He showed good speed. Didn't really show the best speed at COTA, but Sonoma's where he showed the speed. And in his 2 Xfinity temps, he has been really stellar. He was only 4/10 away from making the race at Indianapolis and solidly made the show for this race. It's really amazing to see natural talent just come out of nowhere. And it really makes you think, in all these lower division series, how much natural raw talent, if you brought that to NASCAR, really is there. And I think it shows that there's a lot. There's also a lot of bad talent, but there's also a lot of natural good talent. It's good to see guys like Brad Perez really get some shine and really get into the show. And for Emerling Gase, for a lot of people who thought Emerling Gase Motorsports would struggle this year, they've really managed to have a successful season. I think the only real bad crash for them was at Road America, and that was just due to a parts failure. But other than that, Emerling Gase Motorsports has really had a solid season. Continuing with great qualifying runs, Ross Chastain was able to get the DGM car up to 15th. Alex LeBay 18th. Surprised to see Sammy Smith down in 19th, honestly. I figured he would have done a lot better. The 2 Alpha Prime entries, Josh Bilicki in the cheese car was 21st. Stefan Parsons was 23rd. Jeremy Clements was 22nd, actually. I did want to, make a note on Jeremy Clements. The one thing I've kind of seen about this season, Jeremy Clements' team, they haven't gotten worse. A lot of people say his results have gotten worse, and I think it's just mainly because they haven't really, you could say, upgraded. They still build their own engines. They have a toter home for a hauler. They don't have a regular full-size hauler. They have a toter home. And I think it's just a case of the lower teams catching up, and you got the teams who run ahead of him running that much farther ahead because they have the affiliations. So it's not a case of Jeremy Clements' team is not doing good. They're kind of at the same level they've always been at. They haven't really gotten more competitive. They're just kind of running the same. I don't know. Does anyone kind of agree with that or disagree? But that's just kind of been my take on why Jeremy's results, especially this season, haven't been what we're normally used to. I think a lot of the back of the field is catching up to him, and the people who usually run in front of him are just getting farther and farther away. Kind of the same goes for our motorsports. I really feel like the switch to 3 cars has not done good things for our motorsports, and we've really seen the struggles. The 27 for Burton, they've struggled this season. The 23, they've had some good runs, but they've also struggled, and same goes for Moffitt. And it just sucks to see Moffitt out of that ride. But continuing on with qualifying, the DNQs, unfortunately, were the same ones that I had predicted from practice. 47 of Stanton Barrett was slowest of all cars. Spencer Pumpelly, despite his best efforts, he picked up quite a bit from practice. Still wasn't enough. He missed the show. And Austin Wayne Self misses the show. He is still yet to make his Xfinity debut after 2 attempts. The 0-2 car, Blaine Perkins, got the last provisional of the field in 38th. The 32 car for Jordan Anderson Racing, it kind of sucks because that team is planning on trying to, run that car part-time this season and then hopefully run the 32 full-time next season, which I believe would probably lead to the end of the truck team. Does suck for Austin Wayne Self. Some people don't really care. I think it's pretty obvious Austin Wayne Self doesn't have a lot of supporters out there. It's pretty well obvious why. I won't get into that, but some people are probably happy he missed the show for other reasons. But so it just sucks for the 32 team. 2 attempts and 2 straight DNQs. Sucks to see. I don't know. I want to say they'll be at Daytona with Myatt, and then, of course, Jordan driving in the 32. And at that point, yeah, probably the 32 will make the show because, in there, it's not about driver, it's all about car. And we'll get into that after the Watkins Glen race. Well, yeah, Timmy ended up 35th, but he got the provisionals. Andy Lally was the last car to time in. Both the BJ McLeod entries made it in. Brandon Brown this week was not in the 47, but he was in the 5. And, I talked about that on my To the Garage review about a week ago. Where would BJ McLeod Motorsports go with the 5 car? 5 in the 78 cars. The 5 is the highest car in points, so I expect Matt Mills to continue driving that car. And it would not shock me if they have Brandon Brown driving the 78 because the NASCAR has not set a limit on how many past winners provisionals you can use. And if they don't have a sponsored driver in that car, that would guarantee the 78 practically into the rest of the season. So I could very well see Brandon Brown and BJ McLeod forming that partnership for the rest of the season. Let's get into the race now. Again, we'll be focusing on the backmarkers more. Early start into the race, like I said, we had the early crash with Justin Allgaier. That had a lot of people struggling on track. Not many people were really advancing through the pack. The only real backmarkers that were doing well, of course, was the 36 of LeBay. The 66 of Hill was about 20th. Andy Lally kind of struggled. He was running about 25th. Brad Perez had fallen down to about 35th. I figured that, trying to take it easy in the first run, not run too many laps, or not run too hard, I meant. Patrick Gallagher, like I said, he would actually be one of the first so-called backmarkers. I say the 38 is a backmarker, but it usually isn't. It depends on which driver's in the car, but when Patrick Gallagher, although he's kind of a road guy, we really haven't seen the good results out of that 38 car that I know it can get So that's why I kind of put Patrick in the backmarker category. He was kind of the first back part car, I would say, to fall out. And that was, still 14 laps into the race. By that point, it was easy to tell who was struggling. The 4, Bailey Curry, he really wasn't pushing it that hard. The 66 of Hill, he was taking his time getting through the field. The 78 and the 5, both BJ McLeod cars were not really going through the field that good. The 34 of Kyle Weatherman, he's good on the road courses, but he's not 100% perfect. He was only staggering about 30th. So it was kind of clear that had the race not had the attrition level that it did have in this race, the backmarkers probably would not have gotten the good finishes, and very few of them probably would have been able to finish inside the top 25. So it's clear that, these great runs were awesome. I can't wait to tell you them at the end of the review, but at the end of the day, we also got to agree that attrition and late race chaos did get a couple of these teams their finishes where they probably would not have driven up there themselves, unfortunately, even though that's what we all want to see. But fast forwarding through the stages, we did have a hard crash with Alex LeBay. He would got into the Armco barrier on the left side, which sucks because, man, that guardrail does not have no give. And you can really see, guys who are watching the show today, watching the race today, just how much damage it does. Like, man, that body is killed. The right front suspension, the rear suspension was killed. And it took Alex a couple seconds to get out. I mean, again, there's really – guardrail has give, but not a lot of give. And it took Alex LeBay about, I would probably say, a good 45 seconds to a minute and a half to get out of that car because I don't blame him. He was probably pretty shaken up. I'm sure everyone would have been. But that caution came out. We were about 30 laps into the race at that point. Again, the backmarkers were doing good. Both Alpha Prime cars were running solidly in the top 25. Even Stefan was nearing on the top 20 at this point. Even Timmy was running 16th. Jeremy Clements, he was in the top 20. Connor Mosek, he was in the top 20. Ones that were struggling, though, both the BJ McLeod entries was still running outside the top 25. Blaine Perkins, he was still outside the top 30. At this point, though, Myatt Snyder, he had also gotten into the wall. Really rough weekend for Jordan Anderson racing the DNQ with Austin Wayne Self and Myatt Snyder. It's not really credited as an official caution because it happened at the end of said caution, but the 31 got into the wall hard, ripped the deck lid off, but luckily with the tethers it stayed on. Car was pretty well killed. I thought they were done for the day, but the 31 would actually get back out on track, but would later cause chaos because fast forward in the end of the race, laid down, just caked the track in oil, which seemed to me a little bit unacceptable. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do there, unfortunately? But, and at this point, the 5 of Brandon Brown, didn't really see what they had broken, but it was later revealed that the team had broken an axle. And rather than try to fix it and go back out and risk the car more damage, I mean, you're already down in 32nd. You're probably not going to gain much. And you're going to lose about probably 5 to 6 laps with an axle change. So it just didn't seem worth it. So unfortunately, the 5 for BJ McLeod had to retire. But again, I hope this partnership continues. I think Brandon Brown's team with BJ McLeod Motorsports is actually a good partnership. So I do hope we continue to see Brandon Brown in the 18. So fast forward into the end of the race after just a lengthy caution. We had our last 5-lap shootout. The 2 leaders took each other out, which was arguably hilarious. I'm not going to deny, guys. My dad just died laughing when that happened, when Gibbs and Byron took each other out. And that provided even 2 more spots for a lot of backmarkers. I mean, at that point, Stefan Parsons, he was running 14th. Jeremy Clements was running 10th. Timmy was 17th. Andy Lally, he was 18th. Brad Perez was 22nd. Kyle Weatherman was 24th. Some good runs for these organizations. And, there was no real action until the last lap occurred. Coming off the final corner of the last lap, I don't think we ever actually saw a replay of what happened, but about 3 or 4 cars got turned around. I still don't know what happened. And some just great finishes happened. I mean, I remember my dad and I celebrating Alpha Prime and MBM getting top 20s along with Brad Perez. Also all the way up to 5th, Kaz Gralla up in 5th. Not really a low-budget team. I don't count them as a backmarker because I do have an RCR affiliation. But I kind of start off the great runs with Kaz Gralla. Jeremy Clements down in 10th. Stefan Parsons 12th. I think Stefan is another case of talent that hasn't really been seen yet. He is a natural talent. And I really hope Stefan does get the break he deserves one day. He is a very, very talented driver. Just what we've seen this season. He got released from BJ McLeod. The results weren't really there. I think the sponsor may have pulled out, though, too. That's probably why. Just bad luck. And I hope Stefan finds a full-time seat eventually because he deserves it. We had 12 for Stefan Parsons, an amazing 14th place finish for MBM and Timmy Hill. Exactly what they needed after a disappointing Watkins Glen last year. And with the 13 having to withdraw. Connor Mosek for Sam Hunt gets a top 15 in his second start. Josh Bilicki, Sargento gets 17th. If you guys saw Tommy Joe Martins at the end of the race, he literally just tweeted out, finally, which I'm going to construe that he meant like finally both cars had a good run, which, that's what we want to see. Tommy Joe Martins, hardworking man. Seeing both Alpha Prime entries in the top 20 is something I think we can all put a smile on our face about. Andy Lally getting 19th for Bobby Dotter's organization. And then Brad Perez, the man himself, 20th place. A very, very impressive effort by this guy. And it's like what I said earlier in this video. It's talent that I feel like is just, you have to give them a shot. And there's so many drivers out there that I hope one day get the shot that Brad Perez got so we can have more natural talent like that in this race. And it was great to actually announce, I don't know if you guys saw the Emerling Gase Twitter account, but Brad Perez will be back in the 35 at the Charlotte Roval. So that'll be great to see. Good for Brad Perez. And yeah, he's making himself a star. And I love it. You love to see these guys getting this type of attention, getting this type of finishes. And, that picture of him out of the car with just a big-ass smile on his face, it makes you smile. It makes everyone smile, and it just makes us all very happy. So very well-deserved and exactly what Emerling Gase needed because they have been having not necessarily a rough stretch of races, but not the finishes that were going to help them in points for sure, especially going to Daytona next week where, they are going to be very close to making the show or not. Some other good runs. I mean, you could count them good runs. Preston Pardus in 21st. Kyle Weatherman in 22nd. Scott Heckert in 23rd. Like I said about Bailey Curry, just not really being perfect on the road courses. He only ended up 26th. The backmarkers that did struggle, as mentioned, Ross Chastain, he would spin out with a couple laps to go. He had went a lap down, so he could only recover to 28th. Blaine Perkins, 29th. Brandon Brown, like I said, he fell out of the race with Axel, 32nd. Myatt Snyder, 33rd, destroyed car. Chris Wright, 34th, drive shaft failure. And Alex LeBay, 35th, with a also crash damaged car. Now, our owner point situation going into Daytona next week, I don't know how many guys have seen the expected number. I have not seen, of course, an official entry list myself. I don't think anyone has yet, but I've heard from certain people it could be as high as 47. I've heard from some people it could be as low as 44. Either way, it's looking like that Daytona next week will have a huge entry list. And that's not shocking. Daytona probably is one of the better paying races. And obviously for these lower budget teams, they can get good runs. But what we saw at Daytona this year was that a lot of lower teams had some good motors. Ryan Vargas and Jade Buford qualifying top 10 really showed that a lot of these lower teams have stepped it up when it comes to Xfinity qualifying. So, I would really say, looking at the Xfinity Watkins Glen owner standings, Emerling Gase Motorsports holds the last position in the top 30 10K bonus. But I would honestly say that everybody from probably the Alpha Prime 44 and down 28th on down is not safe from going home at all. Yeah, and that would include, both JDM cars, the Emerling Gase car, both MBM cars, both BJ McLeod cars, and the Jesse Iwuji car. And I do expect Jesse Iwuji to be in the 34 next week at Daytona. Is next week Daytona? Next week's Daytona, right? Am I getting this wrong? I swear to God if I'm getting this wrong. But yeah, Jesse Iwuji will be in the 34 at Daytona. Yeah, it's Daytona. God, I don't know why I'm thinking I was wrong. But Jesse Iwuji will be in the 34 at Daytona because, as we know, even though Jesse's not the fastest qualifier, at the plate tracks, it's all about the car. It's not about the driver. It's just about the car. So Kyle Weatherman will more than likely have to sit out Daytona, but Jesse Wuji will be back behind the wheel of his 34 machine. And like I said, Mike Harmon, they made the show at Talladega on speed. Can they do it again here? We'll have to see and find out. I'm not sure who else is entered. I know the 14 for colleague will be entered, but that car is already locked in because Justin Haley, I don't know if he should have the past winners provisional because he is a Cup driver, but apparently people are telling me that he is allowed to use it and will be locked into the show, which makes no sense. In general, I don't really like the past winners provisional. I think it's just another way to keep higher budget cars in the show and keep sending lower budget ones home. That's my opinion. But yeah, if you're 28th on down, in my opinion, for next week's Daytona race, you are not locked in. But I did hear for some people that a lot of, lower budget teams will go all out for that race. Like, for instance, the same motor that got, Ryan Vargas that great run at Daytona, they're going to bring that same type of motor back. I expect Ryan Vargas to qualify good. Both MBM cars will have Hendrick engines. I think Natalie Decker will be in the 13 because I think they said that she's going to continue to run some races for MBM. Not confirmed, so don't put a nail on that, but I do believe Natalie Decker will be at Daytona with a team. If I had to say in particular, though, probably MBM. But either way, it's going to be, I would expect you guys, obviously I'll be live tweeting it, but definitely that qualifying session is going to be must see because it's going to be so close for these cars of who's going to make it on time and who's not going to make it. Because, with these types of races at that track, it can help you get up into that top 30 10K bonus, or it can help you sink farther and farther into the owner points. As for our top 20 $80,000 bonus, shout out to Tommy Joe Martins, who was kind enough to release how much money the top 20 bonus is for the Xfinity Series, which is $80,000. That might not seem like a lot, but to those Xfinity teams, $80,000, that's probably 6 races worth of purse money. So that's a lot of money. And right now, 19th and 20th is the 48 of Big Machine Racing, and 20th is the 07 of the SS Greenlight Racing with Jeff LaCourte. Looking in is the number 21 of DGM, the number 36, which is in 21st of DGM Racing, and in 22nd is the 51 of Jeremy Clements. The gap from 20th to 21st is just a modest 6 points. So again, Daytona, you want to have those good runs. Notables who are looking in for that top 20 bonus are Alpha Prime, but they are really kind of too far back at this point. Jordan Anderson Racing, who sit 23rd. The Hour Motorsports 27 car, which has fallen down to 24th in points. And the RSS 38 car, which is now 25th. And the DGM 91, which is 26th. So yeah, a lot of teams had a great day at Watkins Glen, but a lot of teams also had some bad runs at Watkins Glen. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me on this little short episode of Backmarker Battles. Like I said, guys, it's going to be a very interesting qualifying session next weekend at Daytona. Hopefully it is televised. I assume a qualifying session at Daytona would want to be televised. And we'll just have to see which backmarkers will make it and which backmarkers will have to unfortunately load up and go home. And, Mike Harmon, he suffered his 14th DNQ of the season. I don't know how in this day and age with this economy and the costs, how a team can go 14 DNQs and still manage to be there every week. But happy to see him there anyway. Anyway, guys, of course, follow the ARC Racing Podcast next Wednesday. Again, we're at 413 subs, just 87 away from our 500 subscriber giveaway, which a Tony Stewart car is up for grabs. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. To the guys who are still watching the IndyCar race, and to the people on Flow Racing tonight who will be watching the ARCA race, the ARCA West race, 1000th event. Tanner Ref is on the poll, and if you guys don't have Flow Racing, well, then follow me on social media for updates. It's that simple. So you guys have a great rest of your Saturday night. Don't do anything too stupid now, and we'll catch you all real soon. I'm starting Parker, Colby Evans, signing off. So long, guys.